budget workshop. I'll turn it over to Jim and Mike, and we'll get started.
Good morning. We're here for our second official budget workshop of the season for us. Keep in mind our first public hearing where you'll actually vote on the budget is scheduled for 9/14 and 5/01. Our second meeting when we adopt, we still have to wait for the county to determine their final date on it, so we don't have that one set, but we had the first one 9/14 and 5/01. We took back into consideration some of your requests from the last meeting on there. We've also went back and looked at the revenues and made a few tweaks on there. Number 4, we got some good news on our health insurance. Health insurance, we thought we started off with about a 9% and Dwight's got it down to 3%. So that's less than what we initially had budgeted for, 5%. That was good news on the home front for the health insurance. We still don't have the liability insurance side yet, but we do have good news on the health insurance. We also went back and looked at the pay. I know y'all been working with us to try to figure out how to get our pay scale up. We've lost a few more employees over the last couple of weeks on there. So we're trying to make ourselves at least competitive in the market to get employees. And what you see in front of us includes is up to 10%, up from the 5% there for consideration on that. Mike just went back and looked at our revenues. Our projections are really, really strong for water and for sewer for next year on there. So I think we've got some potential for a little more revenue than that. Also, we've included the payoff of the USDA loan. That frees up about $20,000 a year from the general fund on that. Looking back through the other items, you'll see some of the reductions we have done, 18 through 24 on there, a few of the items that's been moved around in there. But overall, pretty much essentially the same as the last year's budget. It's been easier in the last couple of years than you have made it. We've not had to come back and say we've got to cut like we had in 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mike to tell you some of the other changes he's made at this point, and if you're up for questions.
Yeah, as Jim mentioned on item number 13, I did a revision of our actual year-to-date numbers in July for water and sewer revenue and projected those out to the end of the fiscal year. And as everyone's aware, the growth in new home construction, customer base has increased significantly. So we are definitely beating our budgeted numbers for this fiscal year. So we drove up our numbers in this budget for both water and sewer revenue based on the July year-to-date actual numbers. Jim mentioned the COLA in place, and that changes, and the PD was left the same. So we didn't make any changes to the PD structure in their pay rate increase, but we did change everyone else's in the system. As Jim mentioned, we did remove the general fund USDA loan cost. We increased the boat ramp revenue for the increase in the pay scale, and the year-to-date numbers are up over the prior year as well. We did have, I think, 5 or 6 people launched this morning at the new rate. So there are some people out there this morning scalping, I'm sure. We did a review of our leasing, rental and lease expenses, and we reduced those numbers. In all of these changes, we were able to reduce the cash carry forward in the general fund to $40,000. So we do still have some cash carry forward in the general fund. And then, of course, to cover those pay changes, we adjusted the expenses for garbage, for capital and wastewater and water. And of course, we mentioned the health insurance decrease from 5 to 3%. And Dwight's done a great job on that. And we had a reduction in our life insurance cost. Not a lot amount of money, but certainly it matters. And then Dwight is suggesting a change in the dental coverage from our current provider of MetLife to Blue Cross Blue Shield, which offered the same rate but better benefits on the Blue Cross Blue Shield dental package. So he's suggesting we switch to Blue Cross Blue Shield for dental coverage.
Mike, have you spoke to our local dentist about whether they accept that insurance?
I have not, but we can follow up with it. Okay. On that. Absolutely. They did cover the MetLife, so, and I think they covered, who do we have before that? I can't remember who we had before that.
Most of the
Humana,
dentists
we
are
had
out.
Humana.
or out of network, and, yes, sir.
But yes, sir, that's a good question. We need to follow up with the local dentist and make sure that they cover that Blue Cross Blue Shield policy before we make a final decision.
Also, of course, that will not be tacked on to our, current, health insurance then, which is $815 a month.
No,
So
sir.
that's not wrapped up in that.
No, sir, those costs are absorbed by the employees
Okay,
directly.
all right, what I thought,
Yes,
just to make sure.
If it costs the same amount of money, why not offer both, companies for coverage?
You have better benefits from Blue Cross Blue Shield.
We certainly can see if we can schedule Dwight to come in and do a presentation. Once we get we haven't gotten our property and auto insurance rates yet, so we're still waiting. I guess he's working with the Florida League on that. So we're still waiting on our property liability and auto insurance rates. We do have a 5% rate increase worked into this budget, and we're not sure where those numbers are going to fall. So we probably need to bring Dwight in when we nail down those numbers, and we can do a review of health insurance and benefits associated.
Mr. Pierce, when do we have the open enrollment schedule?
September, mid-September, we start on the day of a commission meeting.
We probably need to see if Mr. Van Der can come to our next meeting to see if he can give.
21st.
Just a minute.
I'd like to allow maybe a different group to come in that has insurance that we're not currently offering. I know I've talked about this the last few times we spoke about insurance, and I realize that it's administratively problematic because you have to deal with payroll deductions, but I've heard the stories of years back, there were a room full of 20 or 30 companies, and that's not what I'm asking. I know there's some companies out there that I'm familiar with, particularly one that offers free tuition to your kids if you enroll in one of their policies. I'm all for, better choices for the employees to choose from. And you don't have to take it, but it's offered. That same company has dealt with the school board last year and offered some benefits to their employees. So, I don't know what we need to do to have that approved, but I'm planning on inviting this one company to be involved in the open enrollment process. I don't think we have any contractual obligation with Dwight's company that precludes other people from offering coverage to it if we do.
He's our insurance agent of record, and we need to run it through him,
Yeah,
because he's the recorded agent.
and that's fine. I think it'd be helpful to have him at our next meeting.
So what you're saying is, on our major medical, there may be a company out there that has better price and better benefits?
Right, it's not like general health insurance.
Oh, it's not that,
It's different, like, disability,
Cancer,
workers'
dental.
comp, yeah, all of
Oh,
those.
Competitor for Colonial Life.
I hear you. Okay.
Competitor for Colonial Life.
Right.
Yeah, offer employees.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Well, we need to prompt him before he comes in if that's an option we'd like to move towards. Certainly on the dental and vision, he's suggesting that we keep MetLife for the vision, so it certainly wouldn't be any administrative problem to offer both Blue Cross Blue Shield dental and MetLife dental and vision.
Okay.
So with that, then that's basic changes that we've made since the last budget. And we open it up for any comments or questions or from the board.
I'm comfortable with the changes. We're financially pretty good. We're overspent by 40, but you did bring it down from 75, so I'm okay with that. But overall, looks pretty good. certainly appreciate you guys' work. I did have a question over on the non-departmental, which is, where did that go? There it is, page 3. The only increases are the ones that you have in parentheses, correct?
Right.
Because I was under the impression that Humane Society requested an increase, but we never got that. Anybody?
I have not. In fact, I talked to them last week because I don't think they've received their 8,000 for this fiscal period. And I reminded them we needed a memo or letter stating that.
Requesting
And they indicated they would get that to me, but I haven't seen it this week.
Right, well, they need to do it pretty quick.
They do.
But, so they did not ask for an increase, okay.
I have not seen that. It was just the two, the library, yeah, just those 3, yeah.
And the only one other we added this year was the community garden.
That's correct.
Okay. Everything else was same as years past.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
I wasn't really sure on our election cost this year. I haven't really dug into that too deeply to see if we have any expenses for elections this coming budget cycle. That's the same amount as last year.
Okay. That's all I got.
On the fireworks, we have budgeted 10,000 in donations. What is that?
So we kick in 10,000 and we get 10,000 from the TDC, 5,000 for 4th of July and 5,000 for New Year's, if I'm not mistaken. We kick in 10 grand in our general budget.
Is there any other funds coming from the TDC
Not that I'm
to the
aware of.
city?
In the past, there was discussion about them supporting recreation to some degree, but that hasn't materialized. I think it was like a $20,000 amount that they were gonna buy recreation equipment for us at one point, but we never sorted that out.
The only other discussion was we had sent back the memorandum of understanding in reference to the ball fields and the dugouts, but I have not seen where it came back signed.
So we never had the dugouts repaired either.
Yep, so with that, I think, like we've discussed, the budget is pretty much in place. I mean, our department heads know what they're operating under, and they do a good job of maintaining their budgets throughout the cycle. So we really haven't had a lot of flex. Certainly, we're looking forward to next year, in the coming years, with the growth in the general fund, to give us some more flexibility, I think, with some of our facilities. Like the Centennial Building and all of our facilities, we really haven't had a lot of work done to those facilities over the last 10 years. So certainly when the general fund kicks up, it gives us more flexibility with funding for paving and sidewalks, as well as we discussed those issues. And the water and sewer rates are driven by the growth that we're all seeing. So we really are pleased with where we stand with the water and sewer rates.
Okay, let's talk about that just a minute. My recollection is we decided not to raise those rates this year based on
That's correct.
our study said we should, but based on revenue we've received and everything, we're okay holding the line.
That's true, because in our rate study, we had a 2.5% increase for both water and sewer,
Right.
but we were only projecting 60 to 80 unit growth in both water and sewer customers, and we've busted almost double those numbers, 120 to 140 in both water and sewer customers that we've added. So that has led to a higher revenue stream than we anticipated in the rate study. And significantly more. I think in the water, it's we're going to beat our budgeted number by about $120,000, and on the wastewater side, almost $300,000. So that growth has really given us a lot of flexibility with those water and sewer rates that we have built into the rate study.
And we're currently looking to refinance our current rates that we have on $12.5 million bonds. So we should have that information to you. It's out for bid. We'll bring it back to you on September 21st is the plan for that completion of that. Hopefully we'll get some good numbers back on that. And then once we get that finalized, what we need to do is we'll need to address our ordinance that incorporates that 3% increase. We need to get it clean and with bond council to find out how we put that in place. We may have a moratorium memorandum or some kind of addendum or a resolution in place because your ordinance currently says that we're going to go up 110. And we'll address that as soon as we get it done.
We do have that reduction in financing costs for water and sewer built into this budget. We were a little conservative. We estimated about $100,000, but certainly we have potential to reduce that number even further based on the bids that we get back for refinancing of our debt. But we did work in reduction of our debt expense into this budget.
Mayor, I've got one, not really concerned, but something we need to be thinking about. We're ending our fiscal year with one less CRA, no director. We've got reports coming up, and really we got to get reorganized again. Is there anywhere we can find the money to fund that CRA position, even to a part-time, just to get something going? We've got to turn in our reports at the end of the fiscal year. I have no idea how to do that, Mayor. What's y'all's thoughts? We need to look at that. And I know, talked to Taco Bell on the way down to Orlando, and they are going to be here by Christmas, they promised me. So that money should be generating over there here pretty shortly, and I'm making lots of money in that CRA. But in the meantime, we still have work that needs to be done administratively, and even just a master plan moving forward, what we're going to do. Is there anywhere we can get $20,000 to $40,000 from the city, and then that amount would just keep reducing as the CRA starts generating funds until it's zeroed out?
I think there's about $9,000 in this budget
Right.
for the CRA from the city. I'm currently doing the administrative work for the DRA, basically the accounting. I'm doing the accounting for the CRA right now. But we've not dug into the reporting process on that.
Dave, my thoughts for this, the city appears to be being the director of the CRA now, and as projects come to us, we try to, put them in place. And for that expanded area, I'm not against the director, but I feel like it should be out of CRA funds. And I don't even think you can call it a CRA director. It's not paid by the CRA because that's how that works. So I'm excited about the growth. There's no doubt about that. But also I don't want to spend money that we don't have to. That's the only thing. I'm not against it, but if we're doing the work and it's working fine, I would just soon use that money. We might be paying a director, use it for a project in the expanded area. So I'm just conservative like that.
Well, respectfully, Mayor, if we go forward into this next fiscal year, I will respectfully decline the chairmanship of that board, because I will not be responsible for the reporting that doesn't happen. That's all. That's what I've got.
Well, yeah, but of course, Mike, CRA's always work with the city, and I think we can probably handle that reporting, no problem. We just.
One question I have, there's 8 on the city side, but there's 16 additional thousand on the county, right?
I believe that's the number. I'm not
Thank
sure.
you.
Basically, what it's based on the millage. Right now, I think the county's looking at about 6.8. I think is what they're doing with the reduction on the millage. So it's pretty close. So basically, what you're looking at is a budget for next year, potentially coming in.
Right, so I think if we're gonna decide what to do, there's more money there than the 8,000 in CRA.
But it keeps going backwards. We've got D&O insurance, we've got,
Still got to pay
we've got
insurance.
other bills to, I think, McKinsey's office, and
We do. But in
phone, there's a phone line.
Our audit expense, the phone line, we've disconnected. I can put together a budget of our current expenses for the board to know where we are with our expenses for next fiscal year.
Yeah, because my train of thought is, if you're going to move towards paying someone to manage the funds and make the report, you know, I'd be more comfortable with taking it out of what the county gives, what the city gives, minus what we have coming out of there to maintain it for the expenses you just mentioned. Now, is somebody gonna be willing to do it for that amount? I don't know.
But I think what we're missing, maybe at the next time we meet, if we could get a list of the expenses that the CRA incurs.
Right.
Look, just look at a black and white, here's the money we're bringing in, this is the money that's going out every year.
You know, Mike said he do the budget. I think
Yes, sir.
round figures is $24,000.
Right,
What's what I
I
have.
got now.
All right, just anybody else up here have a question? Then I recognize it, Chester. Let's get these.
I think that it's important, to look at the future and, what we're gonna have to, do in order to maintain the CRA. I understand that Mike, is doing most of the work, but we don't wanna overload him, you know, with, some things that, a CRA director can do, without, Mike really getting in depth. I mean, they can communicate with each other about it, but I think it's important for us to start, looking into a director, in the near future. The amount of money, I don't know, you know, I don't know what we would, what the, salary would be or whatever, but I think eventually we're gonna have to, make that move to have a CRA director.
And then next year, we may have twice the amount of money we.
And maybe it'll just be a consultant this first year, and, you know, maybe 10 grand in the pot, we'll get some consulting on, here's your guys' plan moving forward once you start generating revenues. Help us out with that.
Right.
With a part-time CRA director, it's, getting them involved and just moving forward with that, you know. Mike already has a lot of responsibility on him right now, you know, as far as, you know, with our finances for the city. So, if we get him, he can, I mean, if we can get somebody there that could take some of the pressure off him, I think that'd be a good idea. Now, the amount of money, we can discuss that, maybe part-time, if, find somebody for that amount, until they can be able to function on their own.
It would definitely, you would think somebody would have to have a little experience at it, and we're gonna get somebody that has enough experience to do it without coming to the city for a lot of things that they don't really understand. So it's gonna be problematic, but we do, I agree with you, we need at some point in time to have one. So, Chester, you have a comment? Come on, please.
Very brief. Based upon what we had already with Bill Kennedy and those same laws or rules that we had for him could go forward, that's one of the reasons we wanted to submit this application for a CRA director. But now, based upon what a CRA director can do, is also bring in revenue from other sources for the city and for the master plan that we have in place. We also have now Brownfields Association and the EPA that's willing now to invest in North Port St. Joe or in the city of Port St. Joe as a whole. And so we will need somebody that will be able to direct those funds as they come in with those grants that's going to be applied for the North Port St. Joe area. So it behooves the city, you know, whatever amount that you can put forth into helping that person. We intend to get somebody to come in, even if we have to go to the university and have that done. But we definitely need the city's input and their support of a CRA director so that that funds that come in or anything that we have come in that's going to benefit the entire city will be directed, you know, in a way that will be formatted based upon what we had with the CRA that was done for the city.
Benefit of the expanded boundaries, that's where all that money you're talking about that may be coming in will have to be used in that area, and it would benefit the city. But the the CRA director is just responsible for the expanded boundaries of the CRA. Now, they've always worked hand in hand with the city, I agree, Chester, but brownfield money and all of that type of thing is just a whole separate, pot of money, I would just call that.
Yeah, but if it's coming into the city for the benefit of redeveloping and.
Yeah,
doing all
overall,
this,
it'll
so
help,
I'm
sure.
just saying, we want a director that will be able to handle that too and make input into the city's treasure for that. That's what I'm saying. It's not, we're trying to not look just at the funds that might come from the city, but we're looking at a director that might be able to draw funds in also. Simply because right now we need funds in Northwest St.
Sort
Joe
of like a
in order
grant,
to support.
like a grant writer.
Well, that too, that will be included. And that's where we're saying, that's one of the reasons we wanted the city to support a CRA director. And like I say, now, I don't know what kind of funds that it would take to actually do it, but I was looking at the salary that we had for Bill Kennedy, and God bless his soul, because he did a good job over here. And so we was looking forward to that same type of work done in Northwest St. Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Any other questions about the budget?
I've got a couple things.
Okay.
I want to make sure with Mike, there's not a discrepancy on, like on page 5, when it breaks down the individual departments. I noticed under employee salary, you reflected the previous 5%. I want to make sure that wasn't going to be a mathematical error in the budget.
That's correct. I did not change that down the line.
But that doesn't affect page 1.
No, page 1 is 10%. I just
Okay.
didn't change the page 5 to 10%.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
The other item I want to discuss is the police department. The city was gracious enough to actually focus on the police department in step 1. And we secured funding that I thought was fair and equitable to other police departments in the area. And I think the chief was fair with the city in actually the way he divided up the money. It was roughly a $3 an hour bump, but he had some liberty to make some slight adjustments to help with the compression issue. He looked at every position, in other words, and looked at a person with 1 year versus 3 years, 5 years. So you don't have someone hiring on brand new saying, well, I make the same amount of money as a guy that's been on 4.5, 5 years. And he did a good job with that. I think he actually was a little too fair because he did not give himself nor his number 2 person, who's the second highest paid person there, a 3% or $3 an hour bump. So my point today is now that we've decided to cover all the employees at 10%, excluding the police department, those 2 positions are going to fall further behind. I've already looked at salary base for the other department heads, and for some reason, the police department or the police chief has made less than the other department heads historically. I think that's something we need to look at. But I asked the chief this morning to run some figures for me and say, well, what would it take money-wise to take those 2 positions that he didn't apply raises of $3 an hour to and bring them to at least the 10% of the other employees, give them that 10%. And it was roughly $6,600 some dollars. And I think that needs to be included in the budget. 6609, I think, is what it comes down
Times 2.
to. No, that's the total, correct?
That's the
Total. In other words, for $6,700, that would take the chief's spot and the number 2, I guess the lieutenant spot, and give them the 10% raise. They would be included in what everyone else is getting.
Those numbers don't line up in my head.
No,
It's
mine
20,
either.
80 hours times 3.
Yeah, We're looking at 12,000. If, he's talking about a 10% raise versus.
Oh, okay, okay.
Versus the $3.
I got
Correct.
Basically, when you come in and asked me, I did all the math on who got what, I've never done percentages on what I gave each person.
Yeah.
And, the only people below 10% was me and, Lieutenant Birch. And, to bring Rusty up to 10% would be $4,383.
Okay.
And for me, it would be, $2,286. So, and for a total of 66.
Mr. Hoffman, I thought the same thing. I had that conversation with Mike when we started talking about number 10. What I suggested to Mike was give them the either whichever one's higher than 10%.
Right, and that's really what we would be doing, is,
That's right.
because the other, officers actually received a little more than a 10% based on the $3 an hour
Sure.
application. So I think that's a fair ask. The other item, that I would like somehow or another to be included, and I think it's actually money that we have, is we have money at the boat landing fund, obviously. But I talked to the chief today and I said, well, what does your department really need? And he said, well, the number one item on the wish list is, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I think some of it is confidential as far as the covert nature of it, but it's not cameras that video people running the light, going through the light. It's not traffic videos, but there is a company that offers videos. They cover the maintenance, they supply the video equipment, and it costs $2,500 per camera per year. And I'd like to ask that we utilize, we were already talking about putting cameras at the boat landing. Why not use that from the boat landing fund and allow the police department to go into a contract with this company and put 2 cameras, one at the intersection facing the water and then one down around the actual launch area, and see if what kind of data they come back with. It will run your tag and tell you if you have a expired driver's license, suspended driver's license. But I like to use that as a test for maybe next year the chief comes back and says, hey, this camera system works great, and add additional cameras in the community. That's the other item that I had that affects the police department.
We could easily, I know we voted a while back, said it's got to be spent in that
Right.
area. We had a big to-do about that at one time, so what you're saying is that's pretty much in that area.
Right, yeah.
Well, it's also protecting the boats too. If somebody steals something out of your truck and you're at the boat ramp,
Yeah.
that's good security
I
too.
don't have a real problem with that, however, Mike can.
Yeah, I mean, that would just show the revenue from the boat ramp
Yeah.
fund coming into this budget and that expense taking it out, so it's a net wash.
All we have to do is make a motion to do it out of the boat ramp
Right,
fund.
right.
And that's, so what you want to put it in here somewhere in the budget, so it'll all balance out.
Well, as long as, at first we talked about taking it or applying it to the police department, and then I said, well, we have money at the boat landing fund, let's just take it out of there. Now, next year, if the chief thinks that it's worth the money, the $5,000, and there's a good relationship with the company maintaining the cameras, they store all the data for 30 days. We don't have to keep up with any of that.
Just to clarify some, and I brought some stuff from their website. It's actually a community-based system where community members can log into the system. If you wish to opt out of the system, you can enter your tag number stuff in there, and locals can be opted out of the system where it will not read your tag number if you want to remain confidential. It has a lot of, for local residents, it has a lot of things where it doesn't interfere with your privacy, because you can put these, you can have one put in your neighborhood in front of your house. So there's a little bit different rules when law enforcement sets it up but it only stores for 30 days, then it's erased, so there's no, I can go back a year and see, you know, if you've been cheating on your wife for a year or whatever. But, there's, they take care of all the maintenance. There is a $250 installation fee for each camera, but if that gets broke or whatever, they come replace it for free. All you pay after that $250 is the $2,500 per camera per year. And my thoughts at first was, if we get it to a point where we can afford this, is say get 10 of them, that's $25,000 a year. You could have one at each cemetery where we have the most problems. And you could have everybody that comes in and out of the cemetery. So if somebody goes, does donuts, you can pretty much track that down and figure out, you know, it was this time frame, it had to be one of these people and go from there. Same thing on the street. If I have some on Marvin Avenue and we have a string of car burglaries on Marvin Avenue, and we know it happened between 3 a.m. and 2 a.m., go back and look at tags that travel around that area, but you can narrow your suspect list from everybody in town down to these people that travel on this road. And you could put one at each entrance to the city. There's only so many entrances to the city. And then one's on 98, every stolen car that comes by, it's gonna tell the police department, hey, there's a stolen car coming down 98 right now. And you can set the parameters to where it notifies us if you got an expired tag. I really don't care about that. You can go higher to where it's only felonies or misdemeanors or whatever. And the community can go into it and look at how the police department has it set up, just to be a standard for kind of outreach, to make sure we're not overreaching what we should and shouldn't be doing. I think it's a very good program. I know the sheriff's office has been looking into it for years and just has never pulled the trigger on it, but it's an awesome program.
Well, and one other thing that I just thought about is, we just spent how much for that machine that takes the debit cards to park, and, you know, you have the camera that captures that, and I think it would help us with the people saying, oh, well, for one, if they tore the machine up, we would have it videoed, and then two, if somebody says, well, I put the card in there, it didn't print out the ticket, you know, you go back and look at it, tell you if they did or didn't.
But Mike, we don't really need to put this in the budget.
No, you certainly.
You just
can
make a motion, when it's on the agenda that we do it.
Okay.
Yeah, you certainly can do that, yes.
I've got only one question about that particular issue, but the public record requests.
You could, we'd have to do it. I called them today. They were-
Chief, on public record requests of that footage, does the company handle that for us?
They handle that.
Okay. I know that's the big reason why
It's not-
cameras are terrible.
Basically, we will be going to a website to view the footage. It's not on our computer system at all.
So it's not a public record then, in essence, that we're not the custodians of that video.
We are not the custodians.
I like that.
It's handled by Amazon Web Services.
So the sheriff's department can actually utilize our cameras that we bought.
They could if we signed the MOU with them.
Okay.
Yeah, if we give them access to that website.
And we talked about if they ever got it going with them, and I just, with things that we have as far as IT issues and stuff like that, at this point, I wouldn't, because it becomes a mess. But if they needed it, I would share something with them as far as law enforcement wise, but
Yeah.
when we start joining the things together, it becomes a problem.
Yeah. All right, well, good, that's a good plan. So Mike, you got the change with the, salary.
Absolutely,
And
yes,
that's the
sir.
main change for.
Yeah, I think we're, as a city, doing a very good job to our employees this year and trying to catch up for fair and equitable pay. I think 10% is a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anybody else? All right, we'll adjourn the workshop and have a meeting in just a minute.
I just got one question for you.
Sure.
And that was going back to what Mike had said about the utility rates. I noticed on the website that there was a statement that said $2 increase for the utility. That done away with you? That's not there?
No. It's, the 2.5% rate increase in this budget is not,
Right now, it's currently not in that budget. We all anticipated that it's not gonna happen this year unless something drastic happens in there. We've already pledged that we'll do it in
That
It'll be
was-
finalized on it before 10.
yeah, we would change the website on 10/1.
that was just-
We're thinking.